I hate going online sometimes. I miss not having to second guess a piece of art. There used to be a time where Google Images wasn't a minefield of fake photographs. I want to go back to when I didn't know what a grok is. AI has come a long way from its very crude and, at times, visually horrifying beginnings, and with the technology improving at an alarming rate, has now become horrifying in an entirely different sense. But what I want to focus on specifically is the creativity aspect, and how those that have embraced it with open arms, whether deliberately or not, have harmed real artists. How they have severely damaged this craft, and I know I'm not the only one frustrated about this. I love looking at what others create. At conventions, I always anticipate walking down Artist Alley, keeping an eye out for anything that speaks to me. And in this digital era, it is easier than ever to discover new artists. Amazing illustrations for literally anything you could want, just seconds away from being found. And that's why it's so aggravating seeing slop. There is truly no other way of saying it. Effortless, soulless, putrid slop. And I'm tired of it. So I did something about it. Over the course of a month, I logged each and every single time I saw an AI illustration on my feed. I then contacted a real artist to recreate it. I didn't show them the picture, and I'm not going to show you any of them here because that would inadvertently give them a purpose. At that point, it'd be a reference image. So instead, what I did was use the idea of the thing that I saw, take elements out of it, crudely recreate it in Microsoft Paint, and then forward that to the artist as the reference. Now, I understand that me commissioning is not super consequential in the battle versus AI, but it is a way for me to help put more art out there while I try my best to analyze every angle of this topic. So throughout this video, I'll be showing these off, and I highly suggest checking out the artists down below in the description. So to start, let's go back to 2015. This was when automated image captioning was taking shape. Essentially, you show a program a photo and it would not just label the elements that make up that photo, but also write a caption for it. And the breaking point here came from the idea of flipping this process. What if you could instead just write some text and have the program create an image? Not retrieve an existing image, but make something entirely new. And thus, text to image was born. Or rather, it started stillborn, considering that the first batches of images were small, blurry, and barely recognizable to the prompt, but it was progress. You see, the way that generative AI models work is by feeding them lots and lots and lots of data. If you type in a group of happy elephants in the green grass field, the program would need to know what both an elephant and a grass field looks like. And it gets that info from the billion-sized datasets it's trained on. So these generative programs are fed even more data and are fine-tuned enough that in 2021, a certain program from OpenAI named DALL-E was able to take the tech world by storm. This was undoubtedly the first time AI-generated images would get mainstream attention. And because it was so new and such a hot topic, it seemed like everyone was typing in stuff for it to generate. Avocado-shaped furniture, Kirby in the Soviet Union, dashcam footage of a car crashing into Shrek, Duolingo trail cam. It also didn't matter that the quality of the results varied greatly. Faces were messed up, text was questionable, and color bleeding would be almost guaranteed. But it was a fun new thing to play around with. It was good for a laugh, and that was about it. And then, just like its predecessors, it and all of the other similar programs got better and better and better. Over time, with more training, it improves and gets more accurate results by understanding the many variables that make an object that object. So that's why in such a short period, we've gone from this to this to this. And with these advancements come large consequences. The use of AI has exploded in recent years, and that is partially due to how accessible it has become. Basically, all you need to get started is an account, be it on ChatGPT, Midjourney, or even, Twitter. No one, and I mean no one, should be on Twitter. By the way, you should follow me on Twitter. And in some cases, AI use can be as easy as simply having a phone. Google specifically has gone all out in pushing their Gemini program onto mobile devices. So given all of this, it's no surprise why the average person might use generative AI so casually. If it's everywhere you look, why not? Well, I'm glad you asked. Remember when I said that these AI models are trained by being fed tons of data? That includes material that other people have made, material whose owners did not consent to being used in this way. Stealing. This is stealing. Due to their popularity and historical relevance, household name artists were the first victims of generative AI. Even the name Dali is a riff-off of Wall-E and painter Salvador Dali. I'm not sure he would have appreciated having his name being used for such a program. And we're not even going to get into the time that AI digitally resurrected him in order to take selfies with museum guests.
Ooh la la!
Yep, this is the worst timeline. It's this disregard for the individual that perfectly reflects our current situation. Generative AI takes art and commodifies it. It's no longer a form of expression. It's now a digital knickknack. The best example of this was the Ghibli AI filter. This was everywhere. I even saw non-terminally online people I knew from like high school using this. On the surface, it probably seemed like a relatively harmless, fun thing to them. I'm sure the majority of people had no bad intentions. They were just fans that loved Ghibli movies. I get that. However, these types of images are a massive form of disrespect to all the hardworking artists and animators that have poured their soul into the movies they love so much. This goes against the core of creative expression that these films are prime examples of. The studio's lead visionary, Hayao Miyazaki, has even previously commented on the use of AI in the arts before. Back in 2016, he was shown a demo by a group that wanted to create a machine that can animate just like a human can. Upon seeing this, Miyazaki is absolutely dumbfounded.
僕はこれを自分たちの仕事とつなげたいとは全然思いません。極めて何か生命に対する侮辱を感じます。
人間が描くのと同じように絵を描く機械
を作りたい。
はい。
地球の最後の日が近いって感じですね。それは人間の方が自信がなくなってくるから。
AI has obviously progressed so far beyond to what he was shown here, so imagine his thoughts when he was informed that his works were being used for this trend, especially considering the more vile misuses. And we haven't even talked about the money angle of all of this yet, or rather, how AI is seen as a tool to save money. The first instance that I remember seeing of this was Late Night with the Devil, a fairly promising horror movie with an interesting premise. However, viewers noticed that in very brief shots, something seemed off. Yep, this indie movie used 3 AI-generated pictures. At first, you might think this decision was just to save money, but they already had artists and graphic designers working on the film. In fact, these pieces were confirmed to have been touched up on after they were generated. So, what was the point of this actually then? Why not just have the artist on hand make something that would have looked way better than these? Back then, I feared that this was just the start. It was just to test these methods. And over time, more and more pieces of media have implemented AI-generated material, with certain companies being more eager than others. The co-CEO of Netflix, Ted Sarandos, has stated, we remain convinced that AI represents an incredible opportunity to help creators make films and series better, not just cheaper. Don't get me wrong, AI does have the potential to be a useful tool. Something that can automate the boring, repetitive side of the creative process sounds wonderful. However, the main reasons for its huge push, it's mostly for financial reasons. To save money. Why pay an artist to make the thing when you could just do it basically for free? Why spend so much time and effort hiring multiple people when you can just create a product within a fraction of that time for cheap? That is the end goal here for executives and those at the top who just want to see results, and that's where Showrunner comes into play. An AI-generated streaming service that has the financial backing of Amazon. Essentially, its premise is that anyone could just type in a prompt to generate an animated TV show. The Netflix of AI is how it's being touted. According to the company co-founder that's developing this service, Edward Saatchi, using AI purely as a VFX tool is a little sad. The Toy Story of AI isn't just going to be a cheap Toy Story. Our idea is that Toy Story of AI would be playable with millions of new scenes, all owned by Disney. And yes, the company is in talks with Disney and other studios about using their IPs for Showrunner because, of course they are. If this service is being so highly praised and has all of this money flowing into it, then surely that means it would actually be a functional product.
Why the hell are people so freaked out about AI-generated content? It's just, algorithms doing what humans taught them.
Exactly. I mean, if you trust a toaster to toast your bread, why not trust AI to toast your brain with some creative genius?
More often than not, despite the hype these things may get, the final outcome is severely underwhelming. And yes, I've no doubt that this technology will get visually better and more complex, but even despite the fast-tracked improvements to where we are now, it still just doesn't look good. But that doesn't matter, it's fast and it's easy. It also just further feeds the internet bot problem. When I started on this video, I made a tweet calling for artists that'd be interested in the project, and I knew this meant that I would trigger a certain group. In my replies and DMs, I was swarmed by these clankers trying to sell me their services, trying to sell me AI images that, if I wanted, I could have just gotten myself. These automated accounts are just trying to squeeze money out of any poor sap that doesn't know any better. These, reflecting much of the AI monetization landscape, are nothing more than a grift. A grift that results in all of this. So it's even more frustrating when they're given a bigger platform. I'm specifically calling out when IMAX partnered up with the AI generating company Runway to hold a film festival. By the way, this example hits a little bit more close to home for me and all the other creators on this platform because shaping the next era of art, entertainment, and human creativity is apparently built off of the back of thousands of scraped YouTube videos. Once again, all without consent, in the name of a low-cost, low-effort product. So naturally, companies have been more than willing to jump on the opportunity to use AI commercially. Everything from Coca-Cola to DC Comics to League of Legends. In small and big ways, they will find any excuse to cut costs where they see fit. And thankfully, there is always pushback. There's this comic that gets thrown around whenever one of these instances occur, depicting how a consumer's trust in the company and product is depleted as a result of this corner-cutting measure. It's important to remember that with these companies using generative AI, people's livelihoods are being affected. Yes, nobody is owed money just for the sake of being owed money, but that job could have gone to a passionate artist. That's without mentioning just how much general AI has affected the job market, with thousands laid off to make room for a hollower future. This, predictably, led to this job post from Xbox that had an AI image attached, and that was bad in of itself, but the display wasn't even on the right side of the monitor. What's especially infuriating is the attitude driving a lot of these AI movements. They know this is costing people's jobs, and they cheer for it. There are billboards that are encouraging more of this. I'll let CEO Elijah Clark's words speak clearly and plainly. As a CEO myself, I can tell you, I'm extremely excited about it. I've laid off employees myself because of AI. AI doesn't go on strike. It doesn't ask for a pay raise. These things that you don't have to deal with as a CEO. Also, this is entirely besides the point, but I need you to look at this guy's video reel. Yeah, this guy right here probably makes more in a day than you do in a month. Even the heads of OpenAI and Anthropic have explicitly stated that their creations will put millions of people out of work. It doesn't matter if the work the AI does is inadequate, as long as it's saving the company money. That's all that matters to them, that bottom line. No matter who gets burned or the fact that it accelerates the burning of our planet. If you don't actively use AI, I'm sorry to tell you that you're still being affected by it. I'm still being affected by it. I noticed that my power bill has made a significant jump in the past summer. It's not breaking news that AI use takes up a tremendous amount of energy. As a result, demand is increased, which also increases prices. The AI companies have the capital for paying those off, but those costs are also put on the rest of us. And yet they ask for more. For the data centers that use water, they need lots and lots of it to keep everything cool. In my city of Chicago, the surrounding Great Lakes are an eye-catching finite resource for the tech industry. In Texas, when there was a severe drought going on, residents were asked to cut back on showering in order to conserve water. Meanwhile, AI data centers kept on using millions of gallons of water every single day. And if you're an artist trying to make it on the internet, you already know that AI has introduced a lot more hurdles. There have been many instances where a singular artist's specific work has been stolen to train an AI to replicate their style. Anyone could just ask the Grok AI to edit an art piece to include whatever they wanted. Just like that, right underneath the artist's post. This type of harassment has even evolved to the point where people have accused artists of using AI when they in fact have not. For a lot of us, it's now unfortunately natural to be skeptical of what comes across our feed, and second-guessing the more minor details has led to legitimate artists having to play defense. And there's a good chance you've seen this short clip on the internet before. The artist game dev behind it got their world turned upside down in a way that can also affect you, because their Instagram account got flagged by AI and was ultimately suspended for seemingly no reason. Years of work towards establishing a solid following, gone. It's all of these issues that make digital platforms increasingly unstable for everyone, from the established artist to a beginner. If AI was allowed to run rampant, artists would truly no longer own their art anymore. They wouldn't own what allows them to be able to make a career out of their passion. And the next generation of artists will have a harder time creating for a living if they can't rely on their work being their own work. By the way, if you're enjoying this, please do consider subscribing. It really does help out a lot. Thanks, I appreciate it. Now, I do want to address here the other side of all of this. Let's discuss the true believers of AI who genuinely do see all of this as the future. AI has proven, to an extent, to be beneficial in certain ways. It's been able to assist in detecting breast cancer up to 5 years in advance, and has been a key player in protein folding research. Let me say again that there is a time and a place for artificial intelligence where it can be best utilized as a tool. Generative AI is not a tool. It is the end result. It doesn't help you make something, it makes something for you. Those on the pro AI side would argue that this is a good thing. It's an amazing breakthrough that just keeps pushing the boundaries of technology. Just look at the Will Smith eating spaghetti progression. You can now even step into your favorite paintings. Why isn't everybody as excited about this as I am? Like I said, these people genuinely believe in this technology, that it's inevitable, and those that are pushing back and holding on to the old ways are just scared. This is just like how painters were scared when the camera was invented, is what they say. However, while the need for painters dipped as camera use became popular, those who don't do either of those things casually are very much still around. The camera did not replace the canvas. Its invention actually brought with it an entirely new creative outlet. Photography is a skill, and those following it have to learn lighting, staging, color theory, and all of this stuff. And even then, there are specialists within this category. A portrait photographer would not have the best time being thrown into a sports setting or a wildlife expedition. But regardless, photographers still embed their own life experiences, their own eye, their soul into their captures. AI image generators, the medium that they're being compared to here, does none of that. We already discussed how AI generated media is incapable of this. The AI in generative AI stands for artificial intelligence, but that is so misleading because it's not actually intelligent. It cannot create. It only replicates. There is no intention or direction, just randomness contained within the parameters that the user wrote down. Remember that for this next section. Remember these visuals, what they hold so dear in this argument, because when someone pushes back against all of this, they get very defensive. And I'm sure that they will probably do so at this very video, which is why I won't be engaging in any rebuttal comments unless that comment has both a chicken emoji and the emoji at the end of this section to prove the commenter has at least watched up until this point. Please, I don't want you to argue with strangers over the internet. Now, back to me, inciting an argument with strangers over the internet. AI artists claim what they do is work. It is a type of labor called prompt engineering, which is, yes, just writing descriptive sentences to try to get the best image out of a generator. There have actually been cases where AI influencers get their videos stolen and their prompts resold. Yeah, you heard that right. Prompts that were originally published for free were now being taken and sold. Something irony. While the act of getting better at writing sentences for AI to best understand what you want is technically a skill, it's laughable to compare that to that of an artist who struggles, learns, and perseveres for their craft. Okay, but what if someone fully acknowledges that they are by no means an artist? That they just want an image for a meme, for example. They don't want to spend money on something like that, so they just use a generator to get it easy peasy. Personally, I would argue that poorly drawn memes and stock photo captionings are so much funnier than anything an AI could churn out. But those people tend to fall under the argument that those who use AI art weren't going to spend the money to commission an artist anyway. While that might be true in a lot of instances, artists have argued that your average person might just not know how to commission an artist online. be it for a design, a celebration piece, or maybe just something personal. People get drawn at fairs and festivals all the time. It's an accessible and immediate way of commissioning art. If only more people knew that they could find and just directly contact an artist and get a quote for something, I'm sure they'd be more willing to do so, especially considering that the art field is incredibly saturated, filled with artists trying to make it, so there will definitely be some that could fit any budget. But even if that person was never going to commission an artist, there is a cost nonetheless. It varies, but one generated image uses up roughly the same amount of electricity as fully charging a phone, which leads to another claim I've heard that AI doesn't actually take up as much energy as other stuff. That, relatively, it's fine. It's okay, don't worry about it. It's just an overblown perception. It's not. AI is very much a detriment on our energy grids. Don't believe me? Even the companies behind these AIs understand this. That is why the likes of OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon are investing hundreds of millions of dollars into figuring out more cost-effective ways of creating energy. Because what we currently have is struggling to keep up. But until then, that strain from AI use is still there for the rest of us to deal with. And one of the most frustrating type of rebuttals that I've seen whenever environmental costs are brought up in this conversation is, well, if you're so concerned over the environment, then you should stop using paper and pencils due to the amount of forests being cut down to make them. What about the electricity it takes to power your drawing tablet? So basically, they're hitting back with the, we should improve society somewhat, yet you participate in society. Curious. I am very intelligent. You know, I'd really rather climate change not be accelerated just for all of this. Then there's the claim that I tend to see the most, that AI isn't stealing anything. It's just taking inspiration. It's not doing anything that artists don't already do, so they must be thieves as well. And since when do artists care about stealing if they could make a living off of the backs of drawing popular franchises? First of all, that's not stealing. Here's a couple fan illustrations of Batman, each visually distinct from the other. Even though the artists are drawing the same character, they're all applying their own skill and experiences into the way they depict that character. In fact, it's not uncommon for a popular artist to get recognized by the company that owns the franchise they like to draw. And they might even get hired by said company to officially work with them. But going back to the original claim that generative machines just simply take inspiration just like artists do, those two things are just not the same. If there was no existing art for these machines to train on, this medium could not exist. It is impossible for a computer to make a piece of art on its own. While it is true that artists take inspiration from other artists, they still stitch in their own life experiences. AI is incapable of doing that. That's why some of the first decent generated images we have seen were ones that were trained on the artwork of historically popular artists. It was part of an attempt to use something familiar for the technology to be taken seriously and for the public to be wowed. And now, it is an artist's nightmare to find out that their art has been taken, fed into an AI to spit out pictures that look a lot like their work. They did not consent to that. Look at these Batman illustrations again and really put them in perspective. Years and years of life, inspiration, trial and error, just to get to this point. For these artists, all of their roads, all of their struggles lead up to these pieces. Now, what if I told you that these names are made up? That these illustrations were actually made by AI? No, they weren't. Actual human artists did create these. But that's a big gotcha that the AI community uses whenever they can. You show someone who's against AI a picture and they think it looks amazing. Who is this artist? I have to check out their other work. And when you tell them that the image was actually made by AI and their feelings toward it change, that's not some big own. No one, especially as the technology consistently improves, is denying that AI generated content can look good in certain circumstances, to the point that it can pass as real art. We know that's the reality we live in. But if you ate a cupcake and think it's absolutely delicious and you then find out it was laced with laxatives, your opinion on that cupcake will change. That just makes sense. Let me tell you, while researching, I took a deep dive into pro AI communities and reading through all the different ways they defend themselves, all the resentment they hold for artists and those that criticize them, made my head hurt. I'm not kidding you. I had to stop and take a walk because what I saw was just not healthy. There is such a thing as difference of opinion, but the tribalism hole here runs deep. While one side is worried about their careers, the careers of their friends, the health of media as a whole, the other side tends to revel in the fact that others are scared while simultaneously wanting to be the true victims. Humans are interesting because when we tend to stick to our beliefs, especially when we are presented with information that counters those beliefs, we see it as a personal attack, and what happens next is up to us. Do I ponder this new information? Do I try to understand this opposing viewpoint? Or do I buckle down and dig my heels in? I have to be in the right here because if I'm not, then I'm wrong. And I don't want to be wrong. This is probably what is holding back so many of these AI users. They want to be artists, but they're just afraid to even try. They might have genuinely attempted to follow a drawing tutorial and the face just ended up looking too off. The eyes too weird, the proportions all misaligned. That was enough to convince them that they weren't cut out for this. Maybe they were also afraid of the stigma surrounding artists. There's a common anecdote about telling someone that you're an artist and the assumption is that you're broke, and if you went to school to study art, it's perceived as a worthless degree. Or maybe they shared some art online and the reality of 0 likes got to them. The death of aspiration comes from comparison. They genuinely might think that art is this mystic talent that only certain other people are born with. They didn't want to fail, they didn't want others to see them fail, and so they turned to AI, this shiny numerical tool that's supposed to revolutionize everything. And that includes making art accessible to people like them, that it will get them closer to that sense of recognition, skipping the whole process and landing straight on the mass praise they see others get. AI will lower the barrier of entry for them, but the truth is, art already has an incredibly low barrier of entry. No one is gatekeeping this. Drawing supplies to start are cheap, and if you want to go digital, there are low-cost tablets out there that I'm certain cost less than an AI subscription. I'm sure these people would love to be respected as actual artists, and that's why they do what they do to try to be accepted. They hold in-person galleries. They may promote themselves at a convention right next to the artist alley. They might submit something to art contests and could actually win. They may also post a picture online and lie that it's not AI. They might try to get included in conventions and get an exclusive spot that could have gone to an actual hardworking artist. And in cases where someone does actually have the experience and still uses AI to try to get ahead, they lie about it and end up getting blacklisted. No matter the reason for why someone uses this technology in this way, it is clear that they don't understand that the effort is the point. One of the artists I worked with shared a story of when they were at their day job and were drawing in a sketchbook. Their supervisor noticed this and offered some advice. To make the whole process easier, you should use AI. I'm sure their supervisor honestly had the best of intentions there and just wanted to help. But this really drives home how even to the most casual of AI users, there is a lack of respect for the process. They don't see anything wrong with using a shortcut. Returning to the Ghibli AI conversation, I want to bring up this crowd scene from the film The Wind Rises. This shot right here, these mere 4 seconds, took animator Eiji Yamamori 1 year and 3 months to complete. There's so much going on here. Wherever you look, you see new pieces of the bigger picture, all happening at once.
それあっという間以上のもんあった。
It may have just been a small part of the film, but having this much detail and care accentuates the heart of the whole project. And now it's scenes like this that are fed to AIs that generate soulless replications. Just because you could churn out dozens of images at the click of a button doesn't mean you should. That's not accelerating art at all. Quantity does not triumph over quality here. It's like that one scene from SpongeBob where he goes up against Neptune in a cook-off. Neptune uses his powers to make as many patties as possible, all while SpongeBob takes his time making just a single one. When it's time for the taste test, Neptune's numerous patties are atrocious, and SpongeBob's single one is by far the superior patty. And just like SpongeBob becoming a great fry cook, you becoming an artist or any other type of anything really isn't instant. Skill requires practice and failure and patience. There's a reason the field of surgery isn't something that just anyone can do. Where's the argument there that something like that should have a lower barrier of entry? AI is supposed to make regular people artists, musicians, filmmakers? Regular people are already that. You just need the determination to apply yourself towards it. And if there are any regular AI users still watching, I want you to know that I sound frustrated because I know you could do better. If you want to become an artist, if you want to express yourself in this way, I don't care if you were all in on the AI art camp. I am rooting for you. I will always cheer on anyone that wants to pursue a creative field because we're kind of the only ones that can. For the most part, it is an inherently unique human trait. We are hairless apes that evolved to become more advanced than any other being on this planet. And when you look back at all of our achievements, our greatest marvels and breakthroughs, if you go past our entire history, it's clear to see that even in our most primitive and simple state, we were always like this. AI, despite how celebrated it can get, has brought forth new challenges that we'll have to overcome. It has negatively impacted us in ways we still don't fully understand while leaving a sea of digital pollution behind. When you look at the whole picture, the mirage of AI bringing forth a new age of innovation quickly falls apart. It has no immense positive purpose towards humanity, but the top companies have already invested so much into it that it's easier to just keep on investing more, forcing AI all around us. AI, a buzzword for services that we already had, but worse. They say it's here already, so we have to use it. We have no other choice. Well, guess what? We don't have to use it. If you have to keep touting how cool something is, how it's going to change everything, if you have to repeatedly keep saying these things to those that don't like it, you're doing exactly what those making billions off of these products want you to do. Selling the illusion of purpose to both others and yourself. But this bubble is strained. The servers they run on are incredibly expensive to maintain and don't make nearly enough in revenue to cover those expenses. All of these companies are bleeding money, losing billions every year with these investments. That is not sustainable. This economy is all speculative, and all for what? So that workers get laid off? So people could generate lackluster images? So students can cheat in school? So that companies can stumble over making a half-baked product and still charge a premium for it? So that a feature-length AI animated movie can be made with a budget of 30 million? But wait, I thought AI was supposed to cut production costs and make everything cheaper. All of that for something that will pale in comparison to all the fantastic animated movies that were made for less. It is my solemn belief that this bubble will pop. It will be sudden, and how fast everything falls apart will shock everyone. We're already seeing the signs of this as companies downsize their AI division, as people realize that these AI services are just not worth it. Our voices have been loud and heard, resulting in lots of pushback in various ways. Just look at this crowd of people in Tucson, Arizona, cheering that their city council voted unanimously to kill Amazon's multi-billion-dollar Project Blue, which would have resulted in an AI data center being built there. And in creative fields, there have already been numerous lawsuits, both class actions and from high-profile studios fighting back against their content being used as training material. And they, no surprise, seem to have a very strong case. And finally, the one piece of evidence for why I genuinely don't believe in the AI hype as it currently stands is because it's set up as something higher than us, something that humans can't compete with. But the thing is, we have. If you're an expert in your field and you ask AI to do what you do, it is abundantly clear how exaggerated its capabilities are. And in terms of art, the reason why I don't label things like these as art is because it quite simply lacks the humanity behind it. A few years ago, at a yard sale, there was this kid trying to sell his simple doodles for $0.25. Wanting to encourage his drive for drawing, I bought one. And I completely forgot about it until I moved, and that was coincidentally when I was working on this video. This crudely drawn battle depiction has so much more heart and soul in it than anything that AI could ever hope to produce. This was 4 years ago. If he kept at it, who knows what his skill level is at now? And who knows where it'll be in another 4 years? We all start somewhere. Your favorite artist struggled at the beginning too. They still struggle, but they persist. While a lot of artists start very young, there is truly no age limit for your first sketches. There is no one out there that's quite like you. You have your own wants, interests, desires, experiences that will make your art uniquely yours. When I asked every artist I work with on what they would tell someone that wanted to start drawing, they all unanimously said to just do it. No more tomorrow, today. I highly encourage you, if you have ever had an inkling of a need for a creative outlet, pick up a pencil. Please. Especially in a time where the arts aren't being as appreciated as they should be. Don't draw with expectations or for likes. Draw for yourself because you want to, because you have the need to, because everything in you is saying that this needs to be shared. Your ideas, your visions, they all need to be shared with the world. That's what I wish I would have done back when I used to do it regularly. I've even at one point considered it being a potential career for me, but my passions led me elsewhere, and that unfortunately meant I didn't draw as much as I used to. And it's just been overshadowed by so much other stuff. But I want to get back into it. I want to get better. So starting today, here's my pencil, here's my sketchbook. And I have a challenge for myself. For as long as I can, I will draw every single day. No matter what, I will try to get this one task done. And for further accountability, You should join our community Discord if you want to take a part of this challenge. We would love to see what you create, and with everyone sharing their sketches and doodles, we can hopefully help maintain that creative fire in our bellies, because inspiration is everywhere. We, as a species, have been creating for almost our entire existence. Something deep inside us has driven us to creation, and that drive will never go away. Making something out of nothing. It's truly beautiful, and no matter how much AI advances, we will continue to create for however much time we have left. It's amazing to think about. These cultures, these societies from long ago, they have felt these same feelings, the need for self-expression, to feel something so deep that we can't contain it inside. Through art, music, film, literature, whatever it is, we are social creatures and have a need to share, because surely someone somewhere out there will understand, will appreciate what we're trying to say, and in turn, we will be acknowledged. We can inspire others in the same ways we have been inspired. And that's why I think, in the long run, we're going to be okay. Thanks for watching.